They froze my college fund and bought a new convection oven instead, on the same day I was packing for campus. Hi, I'm Brielle Caraway, the daughter who was once promised the world, then told she didn't need education, just obedience. Have you ever been betrayed by the people who claimed it was for your own good? Would you stay quiet or make them wish they never underestimated you? Tell me in the comments, what would you do if your future was stolen by your own family? Let me take you back to the moment I realized my dreams were traded for profit, and how I turned that betrayal into a war they never saw coming. You used my future to pay for a new oven? The sun filtered gently through the red and gold leaves hanging above our backyard in Crescent Ridge. I was stacking the last of my labeled boxes into the back of the SUV, mentally checking off the college move-in list I'd memorized 3 weeks ago. Textbooks, lab kit, dorm bedding, snack stash, backup chargers. Everything I needed to begin my life at Pine Hill University sat packed and waiting. I dreamed of this moment for years. 18 years, to be exact. My phone buzzed in the front pocket of my hoodie. I smiled instinctively, expecting a message from Kennedy, my future roommate. Instead, it was from the university. The subject line made my breath catch in my throat. Urgent. Tuition payment failure. Please contact financial services immediately. My smile faded. I quickly opened the university portal, fingers suddenly cold. The message stared back at me in bold red letters. Payment from 529 education account declined. Funds unavailable. That didn't make sense. I had checked the account myself last week. There had been over $29,000 in there. Enough to cover this semester. Enough to cover everything. I opened my banking app, praying it was a glitch. But instead of the familiar numbers I knew by heart, I saw a bold, empty, $0. Underneath it, one small line. Frozen by primary account holder. No. This couldn't be happening. My hands shook as I called the bank. I pressed 4 for college savings accounts and waited, heartbeat hammering. When the representative finally answered, her voice was polite and detached. Yes, Ms. Caraway, that account was closed and liquidated at 9:12 a.m. this morning. Authorized by Vince and Marla Caraway. They took everything. I couldn't breathe. I stood there, the SUV half-packed behind me, my future crumbling in real time. Without thinking, I turned and marched into the house. In the kitchen, my father leaned over spreadsheets and invoices on the breakfast bar, and my mother stirred her coffee like it was just another Friday. The calmness in the room made my stomach churn. You took my college fund? I asked, my voice low but sharp. They both looked up. My father didn't flinch. Sit down, Brielle, he said, like I was being dramatic over spilled milk. I'm not sitting, I snapped. Why is my college account frozen? My mother glanced at him briefly, then smiled in that patronizing way I'd grown to resent.
We made a decision, she said.
The money is being reinvested in the restaurant. In the new patio expansion. It's for the family. I blinked. That was for my tuition. You've told me my entire life you were saving that for college. I got in. I start on Monday. My father folded his arms across his chest. You don't need to go, he said calmly. This family has poured every cent into this restaurant, and now we need you here. That's reality, Brielle. You didn't even talk to me about this. We didn't need to, my mother said, stirring her coffee. You're 18. You live under our roof. You eat food paid for by this business. You'll work here. Learn. Eventually, we'll give you equity. That's more valuable than a piece of paper. My voice cracked. You stole my future to pay for a King pizza oven? Watch your tone, young lady, my dad growled. Shayla appeared in the doorway, a towel over her shoulder. Jessamine followed, phone in hand. Both had that same infuriating look, like they pitied me. "Oh, Bree," Jessamine cooed. "Don't overreact. You're so smart. You'll be fine without college." "You knew." I turned to them. Shayla shrugged. "It's not about knowing. It's about pitching in. You can't just run off while the rest of us keep things running." I stared at my mother. "You always told people I was the hope of this family." She sipped her coffee, unbothered. "You are. That's why we need you where you matter most." My throat tightened, but I refused to let tears fall. I wasn't going to break in front of them. I walked slowly to the dining table, pulled out a chair, and sat. The sound of the chair scraping the floor felt louder than any of our voices. Then I stood just as deliberately. I pushed the chair back in, eyes locked on all of them. "From now on," I said quietly, "don't call me the bright one or the hope or any of your PR taglines. You invested in the wrong stock." No one said a word. I walked out, past the photo wall where my framed acceptance letter to Pine Hill still hung, now a cruel joke. Past the kitchen, where the smell of burnt bacon suddenly felt suffocating. Past the living room, where just last week I had proudly shown off my dorm checklist. At dusk, I found myself sitting on the back porch alone. The SUV was unpacked. My college boxes stacked back inside like silent reminders of what I'd lost. My laptop rested on my knees. The screen glowed with the start of a new message to our family accountant, requesting access to QuickBooks vendor logs for audit assistance. Need full credentials to review supplier activity from 2022 present. I added one more line. Marla said I should begin reviewing the weekly inventory files. Please confirm. Before hitting send, a notification popped up from Kennedy.
"Hey,
"You on your way? I saved you the left bed." I stared at the blinking cursor, typed the word sorry, then deleted it. I opened a file I had downloaded months ago, Rosemary's Kitchen Inventory Sheet. I had used it before to practice balancing sheets. My eyes scanned the rows, settling on one highlighted in red. Organic Wagyu beef, 65 cents per pound. I didn't laugh.
I didn't cry."
I smiled. Not with joy. With clarity. They stole my future, so I'm stealing their secrets. When I was 16, Mom gave me my first login to the restaurant's bookkeeping system. I remember how proud I felt sitting in the corner of her office, sorting through a shoebox full of handwritten receipts. She ruffled my hair and said, "You've got a mind for numbers, Bree. One day, you'll be the one running this part of the business." Back then, I thought it was a compliment. I thought I was being trusted. What I didn't realize was that it wasn't trust. It was conditioning. 2 days after they gutted my college fund, I walked into Rosemary's kitchen like nothing had happened. I wore my old apron, kept my head down, and poured coffee like I hadn't been betrayed. During lunch break, I knocked lightly on Mom's office door. She was hunched over her laptop, squinting at the quarterly tax projections. "Need help?" I offered casually. "I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, so might as well make myself useful." She looked up and smiled. "That's the spirit, sweetheart. It's nice to see you coming around." The bait had been swallowed. The office upstairs hadn't changed since I last helped with tax season. Still smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. The same corkboard covered in yellowing post-its, the same creaky filing cabinet that only opened if you pulled just right. But now, I looked at everything differently. The messy stacks weren't just clutter. They were potential. Loose ends. Exposed seams. I started with invoices, just the basics. Weekly dairy and meat suppliers, fresh produce, dry storage orders. But something caught my eye. 200 gallons of organic milk at 22 cents per gallon? That was impossible. Not discounted. Not wholesale. Literally impossible. A second order, Wagyu beef, priced at 65 cents per pound. Again, absurd. I pulled up the supplier's name. Heartland Organic Co-op. Their logo was professionally done, their address in Kansas. Looked legit. Except it didn't exist. No state license. No FDA record. No agricultural registrations. A ghost vendor. And the payments? Routed through a third-party intermediary. Amber Supply, LLC. I searched the state's business registry. Amber Supply was an inactive shell company. Its last reported activity had been over 3 years ago, under a defunct tax ID. What were they doing? My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I moved to the backup hard drive. The one I knew my mother never encrypted, thinking no one in the family would ever care to snoop. It was there. Every payment. Every falsified inventory report. A copy of the scanned invoices. Receipts for equipment, repairs that were never scheduled. Vendor payments logged twice. Vendor payments erased and relogged under different names. And the kicker, several direct wire transfers from the business checking account to Amber Supply LLC, each marked operations. I inserted my USB drive, downloaded everything, and saved it under a new folder. Evidence_Caraway_fraud_2023. Then I went further. I searched through the drawers and found a slim, dusty black notebook. Flipping it open, I found my mother's handwriting. Cheat Cow Tien Mat, Kong Kai Bao. Cash discounts. No declaration. A list of unreported side transactions, names, amounts, and dates. Just for good measure, I checked the security camera logs. Nothing too recent. But 2 weeks ago, Dad had accessed the backroom safe at 11:52 p.m. Past closing time. The log showed no reason for him to be there. I flagged the footage and copied the video timestamp. Before leaving, I checked my phone. A text from an unknown number. Be careful. I asked about missing tips once. Lost all my weekend shifts the next week. The pieces were all there, and I was ready to move. Back at home, I locked myself in my room and opened a private browser window. I accessed the IRS whistleblower page. Typed each field slowly. Name of business. Dates of suspicious transactions. Vendor names. Screenshots attached. An embedded zip file of the exported QuickBooks logs. I wrote only one sentence under, description of suspected violation. Potential violation of Title 26 U.S. Code Section 7201, tax evasion. See attachment. I hovered over the send button for 3 seconds. Then I clicked. The upload progress bar filled slowly.
Green. Complete.
I sat back in the chair. The house around me was silent. Outside my window, the breeze pushed leaves across the sidewalk. Normalcy tried to keep playing. I looked at the family portrait hanging above my desk, the one they made me take for the restaurant's anniversary website. Everyone's smiling. Me front and center, holding a spatula like it was a sword. I stood up and walked back to the office, just for one more look. The photo of Mom and Dad, sitting on the top shelf, next to a dusty Employee of the Month plaque, still stared out, perfect and staged. I stared back. Let's see how successful you really are, I whispered, without cheating. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my back pocket. One new email. From Corbin Hale at IRS.gov. Subject: Whistleblower report received. Case ID number 019733. Expect follow-up within 3 to 5 business days. I closed the door behind me. I wasn't finished. I was just getting started. The truth doesn't need a spotlight, just the right shadow to move in. Cameron once told me, you don't need to be a journalist or a lawyer. Just one photo, one email, and a bit of courage. That's enough to bring down an empire. I laughed back then. Now I understand. She wasn't exaggerating. It started on a Wednesday mid-shift. Lunch rush. The kitchen was chaos as usual. Vince was yelling about undercooked salmon. Jessamine was snapping selfies with a plate of truffle fries, pretending it was candid. Shayla was trying to fix the POS system she never actually understood. I moved like I always did, quiet, invisible, observant. While they were distracted, I slipped into the prep fridge during inventory rotation. Inside, I pulled out a box labeled Organic Chicken, Harvest Verified. I peeled back the lid and instantly recoiled. The meat was slimy, tinged gray-green, and it reeked. I pulled out my phone, camera low. Snap. Another box, same label. Opened. Mold under the tray liner. Snap. A crate of produce marked USDA Organic with a typo. Organic. Snap. Then I slid my wrist up and tapped the side of my smartwatch. It began recording. From outside the fridge, I heard Marla's voice. If it still looks pink, just rewrap it. Customers can't tell. We paid for the label, not the product. I stopped breathing, then tapped again. Recording saved. Back on the floor, I passed Vince. He didn't even glance at me. Tables 3 and 7 still waiting. Move, he barked, as if I was a waitress and not the match about to light the fuse. That evening, I headed to Cameron's garage. It was her kingdom. LED lights strung across the ceiling, blackout curtains drawn tight. Her laptop glowed like a war table. One monitor displayed the Dropbox folder I had prepared. The other showed an empty Reddit thread waiting to erupt. We plugged in the USB, pulled up the photos and audio, and stared at the growing pile of damning material. Ready? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Post it. She opened a new Reddit account. Username, Farm2Fake. Subreddit, r/restaurant industry exposed. Title, what really goes into your $32 farm-to-table meal? We uploaded the photos, the screenshots, the audio snippet of my mother, the faulty USDA labels, the financial breakdown from the fake supplier. Everything. Cameron added a link to a Dropbox with more documents.
Click.
We watched in silence. Upvotes began to tick upward. 37, then 113, then 340. The comments rolled in. WTF, that chicken is gray. USDA would find them into oblivion. This is Rosemary's Kitchen in Crescent Ridge, isn't it? Their Instagram matches the tile walls in photo 2. It went viral in under 8 hours. By morning, the post had over 4,000 upvotes. Twitter exploded. Yelp tanked. Google reviews turned red with warnings. Jessamine was the first to notice. Why am I getting tagged in posts with a rat emoji? She asked Shayla, voice trembling. Shayla was already scrolling, pale. You've been tagged in this thread, it says, influencer of infections? Someone pulled a screenshot of you by the food warmer. Delete it, Jessamine snapped. Make it stop. Vince walked into the kitchen just in time to hear her. What's going on? I watched as Shayla handed him the phone silently. He skimmed it. His face flushed. This is all fake, he muttered. Trolls. Jealous competitors. He tried to wave it off, but that afternoon, the email came in from Clean Crave, a respected blog in the sustainable food space. Hello. We've received disturbing reports about sourcing at Rosemary's Kitchen. We'd like to request an internal interview. Cameron replied, posing as Lauren from the serving team. She sent extra files. Screenshots of the Wagyu supplier being a ghost account. A cropped photo of our meat freezer. And the signature audio, my mom's voice saying, customers can't tell. Clean Crave posted their expose the next morning. During lunch service, the restaurant felt different. Customers weren't chatting, they were whispering. Phones were out not just to take pictures of food, but to record. Employees were skittish. A line cook passed me by the dish sink and muttered under his breath, "Brielle's up to something. That girl's too quiet lately." I didn't flinch. A regular customer, someone who had been coming for years, raised their phone and called Vince over. "Is this your walk-in fridge?" they asked, because the meat in this post looks like it belongs in a science lab. Everyone turned. Vince chuckled nervously. "Don't believe everything you read online. Fake news is everywhere these days." But no one laughed. No one smiled. Not even Jessamine, who had suddenly lost her appetite for posting. I pretended to polish glasses behind the bar, watching, listening. Cameron's voice echoed in my memory. Just one shadow in the right place. After my shift, I walked into the staff office under the guise of grabbing paper towels. I opened the drawer behind the receipt printer. Inside, wrapped in an old bank envelope, was the USB Cameron had filled with all the evidence. Just in case. I left it there, hidden but ready. That night, my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message popped up. "You stirred up the right hornet's nest. Hope you've got more than gloves on." I stared at the screen. And then another ping. From Monique Talbot at cdph.gov. Subject: Anonymous complaint received. Scheduling inspection visit at 6 p.m. this Friday. I leaned back against my bedroom wall, eyes on the ceiling. The shadow had moved in. Now it was time for the spotlight. They wanted a full house tonight? Let's give them a front row seat to the fallout. I remember the night I first saw the roach. It scurried under the storage shelf as Mom opened the walk-in. I pointed it out. She barely blinked. "Just kill it." "No one saw," she said, brushing it off. "We don't shut down for tiny things." Tiny things. That's what they always said when the cheese curdled, when the ice machine molded, when expired meat got new labels. Tiny things became big things when you stacked them high enough. And tonight, I would bring it all down. Friday evening, 5:56 p.m. Rosemary's kitchen glowed with warm golden light. A live jazz trio played near the host stand. The servers were all in pressed uniforms. A 40-person reservation from Crown Gate Realty had just begun seating, champagne already flowing. Vince stood at the front, shaking hands, performing like a seasoned mayor at a ribbon cutting. Marla hovered near the kitchen entrance in heels and pearls, pretending not to micromanage. Jessamine filmed a behind-the-scenes TikTok near the wine rack while Shayla barked orders in the back. I was stationed by the bread station, watching the clock on the POS terminal tick towards 6 p.m. Right on cue, the front doors opened. Two figures stepped in. Monique Talbot and a second inspector, both in dark blue jackets and calm, unreadable expressions. They walked slowly, professionally, without hesitation. "Evening," Monique said. "Health Department. We're here to follow up on a public sanitation complaint filed 2 days ago." Vince blinked. "Now? We have an event." She held up a clipboard, badge visible. "We won't disrupt service. Standard procedure. We'll be out of the way." That was a lie. She already knew this wasn't going to be quiet. The servers froze mid-pour. The jazz paused. A manager dropped a menu. Slowly, the music dimmed and stopped altogether. In its place, the low hum of whispers. I followed silently, clipboard in hand like I belonged. Monique moved through the kitchen like a hawk, her partner taking photos without flash. "Cooler temperature is above safe range," the second inspector noted. 48 degrees Fahrenheit. Monique pulled back a label on a wrapped chicken breast. Underneath was a faded original sticker with last week's date. "Repackaged expired poultry," she said calmly. She moved toward dry storage. "Rodent droppings." at least a week old. The walk-in fridge's LED light flickered as she stepped in. I saw her pause at the top shelf. She peeled off a bright red sticker that read, "Approved by Organic Harvest." She tilted her head slightly, then turned to her partner. "This alignment isn't standard. The fonts don't match USDA specs." I looked away before she caught my smile. I'd seen that exact label file months ago, tucked in a dusty folder on the backup USB labeled design_drafts_final. Marla appeared behind her. "Excuse me, what is this about?" "I don't understand." Monique didn't look up. "We've identified at least 5 Category 3 violations. We'll need to continue the inspection without interference." The whispers grew louder out front. Phones lifted into the air. From across the kitchen, one of the servers, Maria, was live-streaming discreetly behind a wine rack. I glanced at her phone. Hashtag Rosemary Rotten. Live viewers, 2,139 and climbing. Ambient restaurant music faded out completely. In its place, the cold hiss of camera shutters and the ping of incoming comments played like a second soundtrack. OMG, are those health inspectors? Is that Jessamine in the back? Not the organic scam place again. Vince stormed toward the phone. "You, stop recording in my restaurant." Monique stepped between them. "Sir, they're within their rights. This is a public health matter now." He looked like a man unhinged. For the first time, Vince Caraway didn't have a line ready. Shayla burst out of the kitchen, eyes blazing. "I told you not to serve that meat batch again." "You said it was fine." Marla hissed. "Lower your voice." But it was too late. A woman near the bar stood up and pointed to her child in a booster seat. "I bring my kid here every week. Are we eating garbage?" Someone else called out, "Is this what I paid $5,000 for?" Monique walked calmly to the hostess stand. Her pen glided over the form as she read aloud. "Effective immediately, Rosemary's Kitchen is ordered to close pending further investigation. All patrons must leave the premises." The jazz lights dimmed. The chandeliers above flickered, and the warmth drained from the room like blood from a fresh cut. The front door opened again. A local news reporter stepped in, followed by a cameraman. Cameron's timing, as always, was immaculate. "Mr. Caraway," the reporter called. "Do you have a response for the Crown Gate Realty guests who prepaid for their event tonight?" Vince opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I stood near the bus station, watching him. Then I stepped forward, calmly unplugged the laptop from the host stand, closed it, and tucked it under my arm. I didn't say a word, didn't make a scene. But every eye was on me. No one looked at me like a child anymore. As I walked outside, a wave of flash notifications buzzed across my phone. Comments, duets, shares. Someone had clipped the moment Monique peeled off the fake sticker. It was already on Twitter with the caption, "This place faked its way into our stomachs." Marla followed me onto the sidewalk. Her heels clicked behind me in a staccato rhythm, sharp and desperate. "Was it you?" she whispered. I turned, composed and clear. "Didn't you always say I needed to start acting like an adult?" I left her standing there, makeup smudged and breath shallow, as police tape began stretching across the front door. "You took everything from me. Now I'm taking back what's mine with interest." Back in Chapter 1, I said it out loud to their faces. If you invested in the wrong future, maybe it's time to lose everything. Now I was here to cash in their losses. The sun was beginning to dip low over Crescent Ridge, casting long shadows across the back lot of the closed-down Rosemary's Kitchen. Folding chairs had been set up hastily. Most of the staff had no idea why they were here. Vince had called it an urgent team meeting. Said it was time to clear the air. Rebuild trust. He stood in front of the small crowd, blazer rumpled, voice rehearsed. There has been a smear campaign against us. We're victims of coordinated sabotage. Fake reviews, edited images. Someone is trying to destroy this family business. Marla stood beside him, smiling weakly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. I waited until the murmurs settled, then stepped forward, laptop in hand. Let me help with the facts. Cameron was already set up behind the last row, phone mounted on a small tripod, streaming live. The Channel 4 news van parked discreetly by the side alley. And standing just beyond the frame, Talia Greaves, labor rights attorney, arms folded. I connected my laptop to the projector Vince had left on the table. The screen lit up on the makeshift white backdrop behind him. Slide 1. A scanned invoice for Wagyu beef, grade A, 65 cents per pound. Slide 2. Screenshot of Amber Supply LLC's business license. Inactive, no FDA record. Slide 3. Video of my mother in the kitchen whispering. Transfer it to Amber, then delete the invoice. IRS won't care about small batch vendors. Gasps rippled across the rows. Marla stepped forward. Brielle, what are you doing? I ignored her. Next slide. A QuickBooks spreadsheet showing tip allocations. Entire months marked as cash tip adjusted. Then I played the audio. Dad's voice. Calm, smug. IRS doesn't audit mom and pops like us. As for the cash, keep it off the books. We'll always have flexibility that way. Silence. Shayla's eyes darted between the screen and our father. Jessamine looked ready to bolt. A voice cracked from the back. Is that why my paycheck's been $82 short every other week? It was Maria. I thought I was crazy. I thought it was me. Another spoke. Then another. Where's our overtime? We haven't had breaks logged since last spring. You've been stealing from us? Vince held up his hands. No, hold on, this is being twisted. You twisted it, I said. Then I turned to Talia. Would you like to speak? She stepped forward.
Calm. Certain.
I'm here on behalf of the restaurant's non-union labor force, and I can confirm that an initial review suggests 23 workers have been underpaid, denied legal protections, and misled about their rights. Thanks to Ms. Brielle Caraway's documentation, we'll be filing a formal complaint with both state and federal agencies. A ripple of voices swelled from the crowd. Cameron's live stream ticked over 8,000 viewers. Channel 4's camera adjusted focus, the red Live badge glowing in the corner of the screen. Then the mic was handed to the reporter. Rosemary's Kitchen faces potential charges of wage theft, financial fraud, and mislabeling food products. And the whistleblower behind it all? Their youngest daughter, Brielle Caraway, who was denied her college fund to help the family business. The camera zoomed in on Vince. He sagged into a chair like the air had been knocked out of him. Marla dropped her phone. Shayla muttered something under her breath and ran, literally ran, out of the lot. A young man from the prep team stood up slowly, adjusting his ball cap. I've worked here since I was 17, he said. We knew something was wrong, but we were scared. I'm proud I lived to see this day. Just off to the side, Vince pulled out his phone. He stepped away, voice low but shaking. I need counsel.
Now.
A pause. Then louder. What do you mean you won't represent me? It's just a misunderstanding. He stopped speaking. His jaw clenched. He put the phone down, slower than before. Meanwhile, Cameron panned the camera across the crowd, capturing tears, stunned silence, and fists clenched in betrayal. Light from the setting sun glinted off the white sheet behind me, wrapping my silhouette in gold. Every eye turned toward me. Then, the cherry on top. Cameron stepped beside me and handed over a printed envelope. From National Whistleblower Education Fund. Subject: Awarded full tuition grant, fall semester. She leaned in and whispered, loud enough for the boom mic to catch. Justice tastes sweeter than anything on their menu. I looked down just as Marla reached a hand toward me. Her fingers trembled. Her voice cracked. "Bree, please." I took one slow step back. Silent. My eyes said everything. This time, I walked away first. They tried to own my future. Now I own my name, my path, and my peace. The first time I saw the gates of Clarion University, I stood outside them with tears in my eyes and rejection in my chest. It was move-in day, and I was supposed to be among the students walking through, laughing, dragging luggage and dreams behind them. Now I walked through those same gates on my own terms, alone but free. No fanfare, no big drop-off scene. Just me, a single suitcase, and the quiet determination of someone who earned every step. My new roommate, Sari, greeted me at the door. Her dorm was tiny but sun-filled, a window cracked open to let in the first breeze of spring. "That's science, right?" She smiled as we unpacked. "Yeah," I said. "It took me a longer route to get here, but I made it." We laughed. It was the kind of laughter that wasn't forced, like an exhale I'd been holding for months. That night, as Sari stepped out to call her family, I stayed back. I turned on the desk lamp and taped something above my bed. Cameron's card, the one that read, "To the girl who never gave up." Beneath it, I pinned a small sticky note with black ink that read, "Not revenge, reclamation." The yellow light from the lamp flickered softly against the dorm walls. Outside, dusk stretched long and quiet. I leaned back and closed my eyes. For the first time, it felt okay to rest. The next morning, I sat in the front row of my first animal physiology class. The professor, a gentle woman with silver-streaked hair, introduced the course with grace. "We begin this semester by acknowledging exceptional courage. One of our own has been awarded the National Whistleblower Education Grant for her brave contribution to ethical accountability. Her actions reflect the highest standard of character. Ms. Brielle Caraway, welcome." Heads turned. A few students clapped. I didn't stand. I didn't need to. The piano music in the background of the lecture hall intro faded gently. And for a moment, I could hear my heartbeat.
Cut to
a slow camera glide through Crescent Ridge. Sunlight paints the sidewalks in amber. Rosemary's Kitchen, once the pride of Main Street, now has its windows bare. The sign has been replaced by one hand-painted, "Truth and Time. Fresh begins here." Inside the new restaurant, workers mop freshly polished floors. Outside, Shayla walks by alone. Her posture's different now, shoulders lowered, pace slower.
She stops.
Looks up. No smugness. No glare. Just breath. And then she walks on. Back in our old home, Marla packs boxes methodically. In one, she pauses over a small photo frame of the family from years ago. She touches the glass, sets it down, and closes the lid. Vince stands outside the now empty restaurant, resume clutched. A man pedals by on a bike and glances over. "Hey, aren't you Mr. Caraway? Heard your daughter's in college now." Vince nods, eyes not quite meeting his.
"Yeah."
She's the only one in the family who ever told the truth. Back at Clarion, I sit cross-legged on the quad lawn, laptop open. An email glows on the screen. From Student Union. Subject, TEDx Clarion. Would you be willing to share your story? I blink.
Breathe.
Smile. Later that evening, my phone buzzes with a call. Cameron's face lights up the screen. She's holding up a care package with my favorite snacks and her signature smirk. Behind her, a banner taped on her bedroom wall. "Proud of the storm you became. You better not miss your chance to go viral again," she teases. I hold up the TEDx email in response. We both laugh, And for once, it feels like I'm not laughing alone. A few days pass. On a crisp morning, I step into my first seminar on business ethics. Professor Miles divides the room into discussion groups and gives us our prompt. Choose a real-world case of ethical crisis in a business or institution. Analyze the breakdown and how it could have been prevented. I feel the familiar pulse in my throat. I raise my hand. Our project is called The Cost of Silence. And yes, it's based on a true story. The professor peers over her glasses. Were you part of it? I nod once. My voice is calm. I lived it.
Cut to.
A quiet visual echo. Brielle, in Chapter 1, sitting alone on the back porch, fists clenched, face shadowed. Now, fade into her sitting in sunlight at Clarion, eyes soft, back straight, breathing steady. I had once thought power came from fighting, but this was peace, and it was mine. I finally have peace. Not the kind given by others, but the kind I fought for and earned on my own terms. My name is no longer tied to shame or silence. It's tied to truth, to courage, to the future I reclaimed. What I've learned is simple. When people steal your voice, reclaim it louder. Dignity can be buried, but never destroyed if you have the strength to dig it out. Have you ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours? Or been betrayed by those who were supposed to protect you? Share your story in the comments. I know I'm not alone. And if you believe more people need to see what standing up really looks like, don't forget to like, share, and follow for the next story of truth and justice.